Hello, my friends. Today, let's dive right into the big news. Even before officially assuming office, Trump has already introduced the person who will be leading negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. Effectively, the negotiations process has already begun. Trump has appointed Keith Kellogg as the U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine. It's worth noting that Kellogg served as the White House National Security Council Chief of Staff during Trump's presidency from 2017-2021 and as National Security Advisor to then Vice President Mike Pence. He was the one who presented Trump with his plan to end the war, which includes freezing combat along the front line and pushing both Russia and Ukraine into negotiations. As we can see, they didn't consult Zelensky's new plan, but are developing their own strategy instead. This explains why Putin is throwing all his resources into action today, aiming to seize as much territory as possible. Reports also indicate what might happen if either side refuses to engage in negotiations. According to Reuters, Keith Kellogg previously proposed his plan to end the war in Ukraine, which involves the continuation of U.S. arms supplies to Kyiv only if Ukraine agrees to peace talks with Russia. The U.S. has warned Moscow that any refusal to negotiate will result in increased American support for Ukraine. The report also notes that the plan includes removing Ukraine's NATO membership bid from the agenda for the foreseeable future. But for Ukraine to secure the front line before negotiations begin, it needs weaponry. And once again, Biden has fallen short. The Biden administration will not be able to deliver the billions of dollars in promised aid to Ukraine before the end of his term. Reports indicate that the Pentagon has hit its limit on the amount of weaponry it can send to Ukraine monthly and is now facing logistical challenges in delivering arms to the Ukrainian forces. Meanwhile, the White House, which promised just 2 weeks ago to send the entire package before Biden's term end, is now backtracking on its statements and pushing for troop mobilization instead. In short, while aid couldn't be fully delivered earlier, now it simply won't make it in time. This renders the previously approved aid package meaningless as it hasn't reached Ukraine at all. Trump, meanwhile, plans to halt support altogether as negotiation process or at least preparation for it begin. Following Biden's calls for strong mobilization, international media has started discussing the possibility of Ukraine lowering its conscription age. The US is urging Ukraine to reduce its draft age to 18 to bolster the ranks of the Ukrainian forces. We need manpower now. Russians are indeed making progress, steady progress in the east, and they are beginning to push back Ukrainian positions in the Kursk region. Mobilization and additional manpower could play a crucial role at this time, given the current state of the battlefield, said a senior US official. Now, let's turn to the situation on the front lines, where things continue to worsen as Putin throws every available resources into the fight. In the Pokrovsk direction, the situation is escalating. Russian forces have deployed what appear to be well prepared units, aiming to advance quickly around Pokrovsk and capture the strategically important city. They are already gradually pushing toward Shevchenko village to establish an encirclement. Yesterday evening, there were reports of airstrikes in Pokrovsk, using glide bombs, with heavy activity along the entire front line. The Russians are assaulting the villages of Новий Труд, Дачинське, Лисівка, Промінь, Миролюбівка, and attempting to break through from Krasny Yar toward the railway. In the Kurakhove direction, the situation remains critical. Russian forces advancing toward the village of Dachne, with Kurakhove itself increasingly encircled. Fighting continues along the entire front line as they attempt to capture Rozliv village and cut off access to a critical highway completely. Overall, the battles rage on and efforts to halt the Russian advance haven't succeeded. Almost daily, the front line shifts further in favor of the Russians. In the Velikonovosilka area, Russian forces are storming Rozdolne and attempting to advance from Rivnopil across open fields. Shelling remains constant, but there have been no significant changes along the front line in the past 24 hours. In the Zaporizhia direction, shelling continues, but offensive operations have temporarily halted. It remains to be seen how events will unfold, as the Russians had previously planned a major offensive in this sector. In the Kherson direction, Russian forces continue attempting to advance onto the islands and push near Novakakhovka with ongoing shelling of the right bank. However, there have been no changes along the front line here. Moving to the Toretsk direction, the Russians persist in their assaults on Sherbinivka, Toretsk, and Deliivka. Troops on the ground describe the situation as follows. The main focus here is on the central and Toretsk mines. Fighting is occurring even in the city center. The Russians are trying to seize the initiative and pull off some maneuvers, but they are achieving very little. While storming our positions, they suffer heavy losses, especially due to their relentless attacks. Without our FPV drones and skilled infantry, the situation might have been overlooked, but the fight continues. Don't forget about Ukraine's brave sons. In the Chasiv Yar direction, activity has intensified. Battles are ongoing for Chasiv Yar, with Russian forces attempting to break through towards Stupachki, Pretechene, and the Bilagora area. The Ukrainian forces report that the situation here is extremely challenging. In the Siversk direction, fighting is currently focused on Grigorivka. Additionally, Russian forces continue amassing reserves for future assaults on Siversk itself. In the Kremina direction, Russian forces are storming Novolyubivka, Terny, and Zarichne while attempting to break through in the Serebryanka forest. Additionally, heavy shelling continues, but no changes along the front line have been reported. In the Borova direction, the Russians are assaulting Синькове, Загризове, and Zeleny High. They are trying to push toward Vishneve and are launching southern offensives on Cherneshina, Druzhelubivka, Grekivka, with ongoing battles near the village of Makiyivka. Activity in this area remains very high, but no significant changes have occurred over the past day. In the Kupiansk direction, Russian forces are attempting to break through near Petropavlivka and are assaulting Kolesnikivka and Glushkivka. Shelling continues along the front line, but no changes have been reported over the past day. In the Kharkiv direction, only shelling has been observed. Russian forces have entered Ukrainian territory at a new location but haven't advanced further, leaving the front line unchanged. Meanwhile, in Vovchansk, The fighting remains intense, with heavy shelling reported. Despite the difficult situation, Ukrainian forces continue to hold their defensives and the front line remains stable. In the Kursk direction, shelling is ongoing, but no shifts in positions have been noted. The large scale Russian counteroffensive appears to be on pause once again. Overall, developments in this area are being closely monitored. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.